Thanks very much. So I gave up revenge. I had to kind of wipe it out of my life, and I don't want to sound self-righteous with that because that doesn't mean I don't plan it from time to time. My job is very boring. I mean, essentially, all you have to know is that I've worked for a couple of big companies, and I write newsletters, and I manage their intranet, okay? That's it. That's all you have to know. And at the age of, let's just say north of 40, I can still go into a business meeting and have somebody say, hey, we've all said our take, so how about Derbecker can say something now? Thinking, oh yeah, great. I haven't heard that since the 5th grade. So I can start plotting revenge. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, but I can start to plot it. I can start thinking, well, okay, let's see. What could I do? I could get this guy's business cards. I could make 100 or 200 copies, and I could write on the back, I'm looking for steamy bathroom sex, and I could leave it in washrooms in public schools and junior highs across the city. I can do that. I don't want to, okay? But I could do that. Or I could just get their phone list. I could borrow his phone. Just borrow his phone for a minute and a half and call every escort service I can think of and make sure that they call him back. More than that, what I can do is I can call the Revenue Canada snitch line. And I'm going to make 5 phone calls from 5 different pay phones, so they have 5 records of 5 different numbers and 5 different complaints suggesting that maybe he's not entirely honest in his taxes. And then I run into him the next day and I say, oh yeah, Bob, by the way, listen, if you're getting these phone calls from Canada Revenue, yeah, the whole thing's a scam. The whole floor is getting it. Everyone's getting these calls, yeah. It's like a Nigerian money scam. Yeah, don't even call them back. If you got the messages in your phone, just erase them, yeah. No, don't. Hey, what are friends for, okay, And I can put, and I really do not recommend this, I can put Visine in his coffee. You see, this is not a good thing to do because it causes liver and kidney damage, but it also causes explosive diarrhea. So by the time the cops arrive, because they've found all those business cards, and everyone in the office is going to say, well, he has spent a lot of time in the bathroom recently. And then Revenue Canada is going to swoop in, and in a perfect world, of course, he's going to lose his job, his wife is going to leave him, he's going to be broke, and eventually I'm going to see him. I'll meet him on the street. He'll be sitting in the corner with a little hat with coins in it. And I'm going to have that special $50 bill that I've kept in the back of my wallet until this day came forth. So when I walk past him, I can drop the 50 and kind of hide around the corner, see the look in his face when he sees that 50 and realizes this is the only time I'm ever going to get this much money, and maybe follow him to Sobeys, see him load up his cart with groceries, get to the front desk, and then they run it through that little light and they can say, well, sorry, sir, this is a counterfeit bill. I don't do this anymore. I don't. I had a couple of fortes. I mean, I'm not actually given very well to revenge. Now, my background's a little weird. My dad's side of the family were German Baptists. Very good people at the whole love the sinner, hate the sin. They're not actually revenge people. My mother's side, however, Scots, Welsh, and Irish. So, they have been known to maybe hold a grudge for a couple of days. And it's even better. I mean, they want revenge. They want to get it, and they want to plan it out, and then they want to put it in a shelf and sort of let it molder and age and get nice and cold, and then drop it off on your doorstep years and years later as a surprise. So I've got this in me. I mean, I had a horrible breakup when I was around 20 years old, and she had bought me a sweater at one point, bought me this beautiful, beautiful, very expensive Ralph Lauren sweater, and post-breakup, through mutual friends, I got a message saying that maybe she'd like it back. Oh, I gave it back to her, yeah. I spent an evening watching Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, unraveling the sweater into one very long piece of yarn, and then sent it back to her in a bag to save postage. I gave her the sweater back. I mean, she is free to knit it back or give it to Ralph Lauren to knit it for her. And I don't want to do this anymore. And I've seen revenge that made anything I ever planned look mild. A woman I knew in university, she moved to Guelph, was living with a guy for a while. They'd bought a house together before, really sitting down with a lawyer and deciding if this would be a good or a bad idea. And things went south, and they fought about that house for months. And eventually, his lawyers beat her lawyers, and she agreed to leave the house. And in fact, she called me. She said, come up here. I just want to clean the house up before he arrives and takes occupancy. And I thought, this is great. This is a grown-up This is a woman who's doing the right thing. I drove with her to the local Home Depot, and we bought those big leaf bags so she could clean out the beds, and we bought some fertilizer and bought some rock salt for the winter. And I spent the afternoon raking out flower beds with her until I realized she bought the rock salt for the flower beds. This woman literally salted the earth. Nothing is going to grow there for generations. So I know of what I speak, okay? I gave up on revenge around 15 years ago for the best object lesson I could have, and maybe why this is not such a great idea. A family friend of mine had been working in Russia in what I thought was a very noble thing to do. She was working in an orphanage that was taking care of Romanian orphans at the time. And this is long enough ago that the wall hadn't been down for that long, and Russia was sort of a mess. And 2 people broke into her apartment, ravaged it looking for money, and then they left. Now, the whole community around this orphanage was fairly small. There were a lot of people who had come in and left. And it didn't take very long for her to figure out who had done this. Enough people told her about it. And since she was an evangelical type, she went to their apartment and she left a note, probably written in halting Russian, which essentially said, "I know what happened, but I forgive you, and God forgives you. Let's talk." Okay, you can question the wisdom of this as much as you want. And she did this, and they took her up in her offer. They came to her doorstep, they were led into her apartment, and they cut her throat, and they murdered her in cold blood. Now that is the object lesson I've gotten in the idea of blood money, literally. And within 48 hours, they found the people who did it, and within 72 hours, her family was on the phone talking to the Russian council, I guess, and saying that they would not want them to pursue the death penalty because they're that kind of people. And it broke for me right there. I can't do revenge anymore. I can't get my head around it. I mean, I can't bring back the dead. The one thing I can do is sort of respect that sentiment. And it also changed what I was most proud of as terms of revenge goes. I mean, I got my teeth into it. I would remember, I would plan these things for a long time. A couple years before, I had been working at, let's just call it an amusement park around Toronto. The name's not relevant. Somebody tried to get me fired because something had been stolen from my exhibit, and I called the police. And I said, I think this particular group stole it. It turns out that actual group had found it. They hadn't stolen it. And they told the cops, and the cops told me, and everything was cleared up. But the woman I'm going to call Leanne was in charge of that group, and she tried to get me fired because she said I accused her group of stealing. Now, I got off on that because they decided that's not what I was doing, but I couldn't get over that level of dismissal and hatred. She had vexed me. And she hadn't exactly had a stellar year herself. I mean, she had just had her license removed. She had been caught drunk driving, although she kept saying, I was really just driving from one parking lot to the other. But she was still off on drunk driving. And as the summer went on, I realized she wasn't coming to the pub nights because she was under a court-ordered rehab. So this is someone who liked to drink who suddenly couldn't do it. And at the end of the summer, they had the equivalent of a Secret Santa. They called it Secret Summer, of course. And guess who drew her number? So what do you get for someone who's in court-ordered rehab? If you're me, around 17 years ago, you get her a $50 LCBO gift card. And I was really proud of that at the time. Because I knew, she was going to unwrap it, and I knew that if she went out, $50, very deliberately, it's a bottle of vodka, a cheap bottle of wine, and a 6-pack of Mike's Hard Lemonade. And I wanted her to have that because I knew if she went out and used it, she was going to hate herself. And if she gave it to someone quickly because she knew that she would use it, she was going to hate herself. And if it's still in her wallet, and she's been carrying it for years because she can't bring herself to get rid of it, she will hate herself. And I don't want to be responsible for that kind of hate again in this lifetime. So you can do whatever is good for your own conscience, but I don't do revenge anymore. Thanks for your time.